Well, let's stay on the debate right now and bring into the program Todd Graham in St. Louis, Missouri. He is the Director of Debate at Southern Illinois University. So, Todd, thank you for joining us today.
You're welcome.
Listen, I really want to begin here with the challenge that lies ahead for both candidates tonight. Polls do have Biden leading Trump nationally and also in a number of battleground states. So who has the tougher job here? Biden, who has to keep that lead, or Trump, who, if you believe the numbers, has to make up some ground here?
Well, they each have a different responsibility, and it is based on the polls. I think that's a fine question. I hadn't even been asked that question yet this cycle, but yeah, I used to talk about it quite a bit. Because it's like in any sport or any game. If you're ahead, how do you play the game? You play it slightly differently than you would if you were behind. So Joe Biden, he just needs to be steady. He needs to have a good, steady debate. He's got to lead in the polls. And specifically, he's got to make sure and not make any huge mistakes while at the same time getting the audience excited to vote for him. So he needs to have a few smart quips. He needs to seem like he's knowledgeable, etc. But Trump, since he's behind, he has to be slightly more aggressive, just like you would in any sport. If you're behind, you have to take more risks. So he will probably do his typical Trump stuff. He will interrupt more. He will try to shout over Joe Biden. He will try to throw Joe Biden off his game in such a way that he gets him a little bit out of sorts.
Okay, so let's. That's what they have to lay out, as you say. But let's talk about each candidate now, because you mentioned Donald Trump. Let's start there. What is the expectation, based on what we have seen in him before in these types of debates? What are the strengths? What are the weaknesses that Donald Trump brings into a debate like this?
Well, the expectations are the same as always. We know he'll lie. And the reason we know that is because 4 years ago, they counted up the number of lies against Hillary Clinton, and it was something like 120 to roughly 15 throughout the debates. So we know that there's going to be a lot of dishonesty coming forward. As far as interruptions, we know that both candidates like to interrupt one another. So we should expect to see those things. What Donald Trump will do or could do a little bit better is use his humor to his advantage, because he's always been pretty funny. And he's very good at the use of repetition, finding one or two things about Joe Biden and repeating them over and over and over again. So that would be the strategy we expect to see from him.
Okay, interesting that you mentioned Hillary Clinton there, because in 2016, based on most assessments, it was Clinton who won her debates against Donald Trump. And still, as you know, at the end of the day, she lost the presidential vote. So what has been learned about 2016 about Trump's appeal and debate style that Biden really needs to keep in mind tonight?
Fine question. The two things that are to remember are one of the reasons why we found out after the fact, actually after the election, that Trump did better in the debates than we expected, is because Kathleen Hall Jamieson wrote a book about it, and she said it's because Fox News and conservative media spun his answers repetitively for the next 2 weeks. So the things he said, like you can't trust Hillary, she's corrupt, in the debate people just kind of went, but because that was all we saw on the news and social media for the next 3 weeks, those arguments became better. How Joe Biden can overcome that is he needs to get more enthusiasm and energy out of his crowd. Hillary Clinton technically won the debates. What Joe Biden needs to do, because technically winning a debate isn't too difficult with Donald Trump, Joe Biden needs to get his audience energized. So tell jokes, be a little bit funny, and use Donald Trump's words against him. He's always got a tweet for that. He's always got a tweet in opposition of something he's doing. So when you want to criticize Donald Trump, I would go no further than Donald Trump's own words from 2 weeks ago, a month ago, a year ago. And I think that will get the base more energized, moderates more energized, liberals more energized, and excited to actually go out and vote.
Okay, let me build on that point then. Given what you just said, does that mean then that the bitable quote is going to be important here? The type of quote that could be circulated time and again on social media and played on media organizations. You mentioned Fox, but of course the United States, we're also talking about MSNBC and CNN. Is that bitable quote going to be important for Biden tonight?
Well, I think it is, but again, it's got to seem a little bit more natural. So he has to sort of fold it in. You would fold it in like you would fold in broken cheese into your mother's enchilada recipe. So he's got to take that humor and fold it into an answer. Like when Donald Trump is talking about something like, let's say, veterans' choice, Joe Biden needs to say, but veterans' choice, as you've said 16 times, you passed it. We all know you didn't pass that. And so he's got to be able to fold those little quips in as he goes.
What about Biden's own idiosyncrasies? You know, you mentioned how people would roll their eyes when Donald Trump would misspeak or tell a lie in 2016. What about Biden, though? What are the things that he does that might turn people off that he has to watch out for?
I think the two things he does, the first is he gets angry and then doesn't know how to control his anger. So he's done it in the cycles, the Democratic cycles right now, plus he did it against Paul Ryan in the debate. Sometimes righteous indignation is good in a debate, and it's just. But angry man all the time is not a good look. So what Joe Biden has to realize is be angry at the appropriate times when he's talking about coronavirus deaths or what Trump has said about our military. That's exactly right. But then he's got to remember to calm down for other questions and for the rest of the question. He also has trouble interrupting people. So those are the two things that I would work on.
Final question here. Given how baked in many Americans are about their voting intentions at this point, how important do you think these debates are actually going to be in the final outcome?
I think they'll be pretty important because most people already have made up their minds, but that doesn't mean they're necessarily going to vote. So people always get confused. They're like, are we trying to get the undecided? It might not be the undecideds we need to get. It might need to be the people that, well, it's a pandemic. I have to get them to actually go out and vote. And that's why I say getting energy and enthusiasm and having people go, you know, that Joe Biden was pretty darn good. That's something that would get them to vote rather than just be like, I kind of like Joe, but I probably didn't vote.
Okay, well, we are watching this evening. Todd, for now, thank you for that. Appreciate the insight.
Absolutely.
And that's Todd Graham, the Director of Debate at Southern Illinois University.